Coming up, the Thunder win for the first time this year, and the Pelicans surprise the Mavs. This is Locked On Game to Game NBA.
Every game, every team, every angle. Locked On Game to Game, your team every day.
What's going on, everybody? Welcome to Locked On Game to Game NBA. I'm your host, Daniella Bruce, and thank you for making Locked On Game to Game your first listen every weekday. Subscribe to Locked On NBA and your team's Locked On podcast on YouTube and wherever you get your podcasts. We've got our Locked On NBA host here to tell you everything you need to know from last night in the NBA. The Detroit Pistons lost for the third time in their first 4 games on Tuesday. This time, a blowout to the Washington Wizards. Locked On Pistons looks into what's wrong in Detroit.
It feels like just yesterday we were all celebrating and so happy over the win over the Orlando Magic. But, this is probably one of the most depressing starts that I think we could have imagined for your Detroit Pistons. Host of the Locked On Pistons podcast, Kook Hill here. The Pistons lose another game to the Washington Wizards. We see another opponent laughing at the Detroit Pistons as they beat them. Just depressing effort, depressing defense. Couldn't make any shots. Just bad performance up and down the roster. This team has not played well to start the season. The bench continues to be just utter trash. This has just been... Outside the Orlando game, this has been a very tough start for the Pistons this season. Tough start for everyone watching the Pistons. We were having so much fun watching in the Orlando game, and then ever since then, I don't think we've had much fun at all. It's going to be a very depressing podcast tomorrow. Stay tuned.
The Pelicans are banged up, but New Orleans stayed hot to start the season by beating Luka and the Mavericks. Both Locked On Pelicans and Mavericks tells you how New Orleans upset Dallas.
The Dallas Mavericks got outworked, forgot all their principles, and completely underestimated an overmatched opponent. Nick Engstead from the Locked On Mavericks podcast here, and without Zion Williamson, Brandon Ingram, or Herb Jones, 3 starters for the Pelicans. The Dallas Mavericks are without Tim Hardaway Jr., they're without Frank Ntilikina. That's not good enough. The Mavericks go in to the Pelicans in New Orleans, and they lose in this game, came all the way down to the wire, and it started at the beginning of the game. JaVale McGee gave up 12, 13, maybe 14 points all on his own just by the Pelicans outworking the Mavericks on the defensive end. An incredible run for the New Orleans Pelicans. They shot 72% in the first quarter. Just an incredible start to the game. And the Mavericks defense never fully really recovered, and their offense couldn't be anything without Luka Doncic just being incredible. And in the fourth quarter, he only gave you a couple of points here and there. Just didn't have enough in him. The Dallas Mavericks just didn't play their game in this one.
No Zion, no Brandon Ingram, no Herb Jones, no problem for the Pelicans as their depth gets them a big win over the Dallas Mavericks. I'm Jake Madison, host of the Locked On Pelicans podcast. The Pels feel like they are a deep team, and you saw it in this one. What should have been a scheduled loss turned into a massive win with players like Najee Marshall out-hustling Dallas and Luka Doncic all night, Trey Murphy going a perfect 8 of 8 shooting for 22 points, CJ McCollum not hitting his shots but dishing out big assists, and Jose Alvarado making play after play. In total, 8 players scored in double figures for New Orleans. That's only the 5th time ever the franchise has ever had that happen. They out-hustled and outworked the Mavs, and you saw the fight from this team and why they feel something special is brewing in the Big Easy.
Shai Gilgeous-Alexander got the Thunder their first win of the season by beating the Clippers in OKC. Our Locked On Thunder host takes you through the win.
The Oklahoma City Thunder got their first win of the season over a shorthanded Clipper squad. I'm Rylan Stiles, host of Locked On Thunder. And in this game, SGA made his regular season debut at home. In this one, did not play Sunday, played today to the tune of 33 points. And the Thunder were able to have a 21-0 run in the third that sparked this win over the Clippers.
That's all today for Locked On Game to Game NBA. Thank you for making Locked On your first listen every weekday. Subscribe to Locked On NBA and your team's Locked On podcast for more NBA coverage every day of the week. I'm Daniella Bruce, and this has been Locked On Game to Game.